My name is Mike Haney, and I specialize in two primary spheres. Number one, early childhood educational psychology, curriculum and development. I'll let you know a little bit about what that means. And number two, parental psychology, the psychology of parenting young children. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about my history. And if you're not interested, you can just tune out for the next 5 minutes. I had to live it. It wasn't all that great. But there are some books you could read and some other things you could do for the next couple of minutes. I became interested in the psychology and the developmental psychology of young children just prior to entering college. So I went to college and I studied at a small private liberal arts college called Keystone College. I went there specifically because they were one of the few colleges that I could major in early childhood education and child psychology simultaneously. So I did that, and upon graduation, a couple of my professors said, "Mike, we'd like to see you do something real interesting after graduation." And no one really had a clear idea about what that would be, myself included. So with their help, I was accepted into a program at another college where I was able to research for 1 year under two very well-known researchers at the time, Dr. Barbara Wheeler and Dr. Sarah Erb, H-E-R-B, Sarah Willoughby Herb. And they each were well-known theorists in the field, and I worked with them for 1 year at another state college where at the time they were one of only a couple of colleges in the country that still had an elementary school on their campus as the college's field studies school, which is pretty unusual because most education majors, if there is a school on campus, it's a preschool or a daycare center. So I spent that year researching what they called classroom psychology, and I worked with preschool kindergartners and first graders. Upon completing that program, I then began about 8.5 years of research. And it's research that I call parental psychology, the psychology of parenting young children. And what I did during those 8.5 years was I researched with about 72 different families in Central Bucks, in Chalfont and Doylestown and Buckingham. And I spent time with the families in their homes during breakfast, during lunch, during dinner. When the paper boy was at the door and the dog was barking and there was a pot of water boiling on the stove and there was a baby crying and there was chaos. I spent time with these 72 families during bedtime, during carpooling, and I developed a real keen, almost obsessive, if you will, eye for primarily what occurs in the dynamic between an adult, mom, dad, grandparent, first grade, second grade teacher, brownie troop leader, what occurs between an adult and a child when they are communicating, when they're verbally communicating, when there's a lot of body language. And I incorporated a lot of that research and I branched out into schools, and a lot of schools would allow me to actually go to school with the children who I was researching with. And then my research started to change because it wasn't just about the child that I was there with, it was about the psychology of the classroom. So I started teaching preschool part-time so I could continue my research. And I went back to another college and I got a teaching certificate so I could then teach myself in conjunction with my own research. So that continued primarily with preschoolers through first graders. And then after a couple of years, a couple of schools found out about my research, and one school asked me if I would come and teach. It was a pilot school. So what we did was we piloted new curriculum. So I taught second grade for a while, and the last year that I taught, it was a public school, but it was a pilot-funded program. So there are a couple of schools out there, public schools, that pilot new curriculum. And if you're wondering if your child is in one of those schools, if you don't know about it, then your child's not. So I used varying programs that were new in math and social studies and science in this pilot school. Like I said, the last year that I taught first grade. I then was given an opportunity that I didn't want to pass up, though I do miss the classroom. I was given an opportunity to lecture at Temple University in Philadelphia, and it was a 2-semester course. Many of the individuals in the course were already school teachers, and the, I guess the carrot waved before me that I couldn't pass by was the first 10% of the course I was allowed to teach all of my own research as fact for the classroom, which was a neat thing. So I did that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I taught at a private school in Glenside, which brings me up to my work with Lighthouse. I was doing some work for the state of Pennsylvania for an organization called the Professional Development Center for Teachers of Pennsylvania, and my territory was southeastern Pennsylvania. So I'd go into classrooms, kindergarten, first, second, third grade. I would watch a teacher teach. I would tell her about things that I thought were great and about things that could even be better. Well, making long story short, the Professional Development Center, a couple of years ago, 2002, 2003, dissolved the entire branch of educational consultants, of which I was one. And now they primarily do textbooks and other things. So I did it independently for a while. Again, making long story short, I taught swim lessons at Fanny Chapman in Doylestown for 18 years. And I was their staff child care advisor, and I organized the activities for children. And a couple of years ago, I had Dr. Carl Benzio's youngest daughter in my swim lessons class. And he came and watched me teach lessons a couple of times, and he would send letters to me through his wife saying, you know, I really want to get together with you and talk about stuff, but my schedule and his never met. And making long story short, about a year and 4 months ago, I called him out of the blue, and I said, well, you know, if we can't get together, you could come to a speaking engagement. I am training and speaking to kindergarten teachers in Central Bucks. This was last October, a year ago, this past October. And I know it would be fine if you came and sat in the audience. So Dr. Benzio came and sat in the audience, and I spoke to kindergarten teachers for about 2 hours about redirecting displays of inappropriate behavior, communication skills with young children in their classrooms. And he watched me and called me the next day and said, let's get together. And let's do some work together. So that's where I am today. So now that we feel like we know each other a little bit, or at least now that you feel like you know me, I'll share something personal with you. I'm having a hellacious day. This has been an absolute train wreck of a day for me, which is strange because normally I don't have days like that, quite honestly. I love what I do for a living. I love going in and out of different classrooms all day long, and it's just something that I love so much. And I usually walk into speaking engagements so plugged in that you would think that, you know, I need volume or something. I need Valium. I need something to settle down from. And this is one of the first times ever that I don't feel that way. And I apologize for that. But you can pray for me. I had this thing occur with my family today that was just really devastating on a personal level. And boy, oh boy, it really, really derailed me. So I tell that to you because I like to establish a relationship with the audience. So now you know that about me. And this is nice because I speak at a lot of educational conferences, and frequently it's in an auditorium that's packed and I can't even see the people halfway back. And it's nice to have this type of communication that we'll have tonight. So I killed a lot of time. It's 8:30. What we're going to do is tonight we're going to get started on some generals. Tomorrow the big stuff will be happening. Tomorrow I'll be telling you stuff that, what I like to say, and I don't say this out of a spirit of pride. Tomorrow's the stuff that I'll be talking about that I think can change your life. That I think can forever change the way that you communicate with young children. And I've been doing this with teachers for almost 16 years, and I've had the feedback that, and I see teachers 7, 8, 9 years later at conferences, and they say, you know what, my classroom was never the same again after that. And again, it's not out of pride, it's out of joy that I share that with you. And all of that stuff is coming up tomorrow. So we're just going to get started a little slowly this evening, primarily about communication skills with young children. And it's interesting, whether I'm evaluating a teacher or not, it's difficult for me to turn that off. And sometimes I'll be watching a teacher teach, kindergarten, first, second, third grade teacher. And afterward, I'll say, pardon me, oh, incidentally, to compound my hellacious day, I have this strange inner ear infection. My left ear, it swelled closed last night, so I have little, if no, hearing at all in my left ear. See, I had this buildup of wax, and I was sort of excavating, and I think I went a little too deep. It was the Ginsu knife I shouldn't have used. No, I'm kidding. But, it's better now because I was in searing pain yesterday, and I was just praying last night in the Spirit, please take this away. And the searing pain is gone. So if I don't hear you from that ear, it's not as though I'm ignoring you. It's that I really didn't hear what you said, but it's only getting better, so thank you.